After the media reveals that he's a father, baseball player Ji-hoon comes home at the end of a long day, only to hear troubling news. His daughter's nanny tells him that reporters showed up at Seoyeon's bus stop after school and ambushed her with questions. She explains that Seoyeon was very shocked by the sudden attention and seemed shaken. The nanny adds that she's worried this won't be the last time it happens. All the messages flooding Ji-hoon's phone are from reporters or acquaintances making the situation about themselves, people saying things like, "I feel so betrayed by you." Not one message shows true concern, except for the one from Dajung. Her message is simple and sincere, expressing her support for him and Seoyeon, and asking if they're okay. Meanwhile, at a coffee shop, Aerin happens to overhear a conversation between Dukjin and Daeyoung. Dukjin, speaking loudly and emotionally, calls him by his real name, Hong Daeyoung. Aerin freezes in shock. Daeyoung, caught completely off guard, fumbles and fails to deny it. Flustered but determined, Aerin rushes to find Dajung to tell her that Wooyoung is actually her ex-husband. But before she can speak, Dajung says she has to leave because Ji-hoon asked to meet up, and she hurries off. Left behind, Daeyoung and Dukjin make a desperate, last-minute attempt to convince Aerin she must have misheard. But Aerin isn't fooled. She calmly takes out her phone, calls Daeyoung's number, and watches as his phone lights up and rings right in front of her. The evidence is undeniable. Realizing there's no more hiding, the guys give in. Daeyoung begs Aerin not to tell Dajung. But Aerin, replaying every odd moment, every slip of the tongue, and every clue she ignored, realizes this teenager really is the man she used to hate. Furious and betrayed, she silently vows to punish him. Dajung and Ji-hoon sit quietly in the park, the night calm around them. Ji-hoon explains that Seoyeon got lost because she was trying to find her mother. Hearing that, Dajung gently asks how long he's been raising her. He replies that it's been 2 years, ever since he officially adopted her. Seoyeon isn't his biological daughter, she's actually his older brother's child. Ji-hoon takes a deep breath and begins to tell Dajung the full story. After their parents died, it was his brother who raised him. He worked 3 jobs while going to college, just to support them both. When Ji-hoon was in high school, his brother's girlfriend got tired of always coming second to Ji-hoon and eventually left. Then, on the very day Ji-hoon was drafted to the Siam Wolves, he came home to find his brother caring for a baby girl. Her mother had come back only to abandon her with Hyung. Years later, while Ji-hoon was away in America for training, tragedy struck. His brother was killed in a car accident. Ji-hoon came home, overwhelmed by grief, but he didn't hesitate. He decided to raise Seoyeon, just like his brother had once raised him. Dajung looks at him with admiration and says softly that what he did is amazing. But Ji-hoon lowers his eyes, clearly weighed down. He confesses that he doesn't feel like he's been a good father, and now, with the media storm surrounding them, he feels even more like he's failing her. Ji-hoon quietly confesses that he's thinking about retiring. But even as he says it, he admits he might regret the decision. Dajung looks at him seriously and asks him to think about how Seoyeon will feel one day, when she's older and finds out he gave up his career because of her. She might think she was a burden, Dajung says gently. She tells Ji-hoon not to retire if he'll regret it later, because happy parents raise happy children. She adds with a warm smile, "I'll be your fan forever." That way, No matter what anyone else says, you'll always have at least one fan. Ji-hoon is moved. Her words remind him of something his brother once said. Don't let people who don't know you get to you. To me, Ji-hoon, you're the greatest baseball player, and no matter what, I'll forever be your fan. Meanwhile, Il-kwon is working behind the bar and scolds the bartender for calling him teacher. He doesn't want anyone knowing about his day job. Aerin happens to be there, clearly drunk, and she staggers over, slurring that she didn't realize Il-kwon owned the place. He quickly denies owning it and points out how much she's had to drink. Aerin groans that it's all Hong Dae-young's fault. She rants that he's tricking people, even Il-kwon himself. When Il-kwon says he hasn't seen Dae-young in years, Aerin suddenly shouts, "You saw him! Go Woo-young! Go Woo-young is Hong Dae-young. Hong Dae-young is Go Woo-young." Back in the park, Ji-hoon sheepishly asks Da-jung for parenting advice, like how to play with Seo-yeon. Da-jung smiles and tells him to do something simple and fun, like telling her that if she catches a falling cherry blossom petal, she gets a wish. She'll run around for hours chasing petals. Da-jung laughs. Ji-hoon looks up, then reaches out and catches a petal from the air. His face lights up with a soft, boyish grin, and in that quiet moment, he makes a secret wish. As Ji-hoon and Da-jung sit together, a few passers-by recognize him and begin whispering, clearly assuming the two are dating. Ji-hoon quickly picks up on Da-jung's discomfort. Without a word, he takes off his hat and places it gently on her head, then steps in front of her to shield her from the stares. As they wait for the onlookers to move on, he stands still, aware of how close they are, of the way their hands are lightly touching behind his back. The air between them feels charged, but neither says a word. The next morning, Dae-young waits outside Aerin's office building. When she arrives, he asks again, quietly, seriously, not to tell Da-jung who he really is. Aerin shoots him a sharp look and asks why she shouldn't. "I'm her friend," she says firmly, "not yours." But Dae-young answers calmly, "I'm asking for Da-jung's." Aerin, still angry, snaps, "If you were thinking of her, you should have done better before the divorce." Dae-young hesitates, then appears in his older form, his voice filled with quiet regret. "You're right. I should have. But I finally realized it. I used to say I was busy just to come home late. I'd come home drunk and blame it on being tired. I missed everything, the times my family truly needed me. I didn't see it then. I'm trying now. I stopped drinking, too." He looks down for a moment, then adds softly, "But if Da-jung finds out that I'm Hong Dae-young, she'll just feel uncomfortable. That's the last thing I want." Aerin finally gives in with a sigh, telling Dae-young that she'll think about keeping his secret, but no more than that. As she heads into the elevator, Dukjin slips in beside her and casually brings up Shivu, mentioning how the boy lacks confidence in his basketball skills. Shivu told his father he wasn't interested in trying out for the team. Dukjin explains that Dae-young has been pretending to be a friend to practice with Shivu and help him gain confidence. Now, thanks to that support, they're even planning to try out for the school team together. He gently asks Aerin to understand Dae-young's reasons for hiding his identity. Though still grumpy, Aerin agrees, if only reluctantly. But later, as she sits in her office, the weight of her feelings hits her, how she's been openly swooning over the handsome younger man, not realizing he was actually her best friend's ex-husband. Flustered and unsure, she picks up the phone and calls Dajang, asking her to meet up that evening to talk. The next morning, Xia is running late to school again and ends up locked outside the gate. Bully Jasak conveniently lingers behind the others so he can join her in running punishment laps. He even offers to carry her backpack. Xia refuses sharply, but before she can say more, Jiho swoops in and casually takes her bag from her, ignoring her protests. Not to be outdone, Jasak tosses his own backpack at Jiho with a smirk. Jiho just picks it up and flings it to the ground without hesitation. Later during break, Xia and her friends head to the snack bar, and she realizes she accidentally left her pencil case behind in the music room. Back in the room, Jiho and Jasak are already there, engaged in a full-on tug-of-war over the pencil case. Just as the struggle escalates, Xia walks in, stares at the ridiculous scene, and yanks the pencil case away from both of them. She narrows her eyes and mutters, "What is wrong with those two weirdos?" It's the day of the basketball team tryouts for Shivu and Daeyoung, a surprise to Xia, who had no idea they were even trying out. Daeyoung goes first, moving with speed and confidence. Ilkwon watches him closely, his expression changing as he starts to notice something familiar, the strong resemblance to the teenage Daeyoung he once knew, especially after Aaron's drunken outburst. When it's Shivu's turn, he walks onto the court looking nervous and unsure. But then he closes his eyes, takes a breath, and when he opens them again, there's a fire in them. Determination replaces hesitation. And then he plays, like a beast. Fast, focused, and unstoppable. Both he and Daeyoung end up making the team. Ilkwon tells them he'll need to speak with their parents soon about team details. Off to the side, Jiho and Jasak are watching. When they see Daeyoung wave happily to Xia, they both misread the gesture and react with visible jealousy. Later, Shivu expresses concern to Daeyoung. He doesn't want his mom to come to the school. He's afraid the other kids will recognize her and she'll hear the ugly gossip going around. Instead, he decides to ask his grandfather to attend the meeting in her place, and he brings Daeyoung along for the conversation. Daeyoung's dad couldn't be prouder of Shivu. He grins as he brags about Daeyoung's basketball skills, though he can't help but ruin the moment by adding, "That was pretty much all we had to brag about with him." When the topic of the school meeting comes up, Daeyoung's dad reminisces. He tells Shivu that when Daeyoung wanted to play basketball back then, the school pressured him to pay money for his son to join. But he refused, confident that Daeyoung's talent would speak for itself. Daeyoung quietly listens, ducking his head. He never knew this. His father turns to Shivu with a smile and says he's sure things are different now, but that it should be his mother who goes to the meeting, not him. Later, Daeyoung speaks to Shivu with a serious tone, telling him that he should be the one to tell his mother he's playing basketball, because if she finds out from someone else, it will hurt her. Shivu understands, and after a brief pause, promises that he'll tell her himself. That night, Aaron and Dajang meet up. We don't hear their full conversation, but it's clear that Aaron is talking animatedly while Dajang listens with a worried look on her face. On their way home, they run into Shivu and Daeyoung on the street. Dajang looks at them and says, "I know everything." Daeyoung's face instantly fills with panic. He starts stumbling over his words, begging Dajang to just let him explain, but she interrupts, smiling. She was talking about Shivu playing basketball. Shivu chimes in and says proudly that he made the team. Dajang's face lights up, and she squeals with excitement before wrapping her arms around him. She immediately insists on taking him home to make his favorite dinner to celebrate. As they walk off, Erin stays behind for a moment with Daeyoung. She tells him quietly that she was planning to tell Dajang the truth about his identity tonight, but when it came down to it, she just couldn't. She explains that during their conversation, she mentioned Wooyoung, and Dajang had spoken so fondly of him. She'd said that Wooyoung is kind, that he comforts her, supports her, and looks out for her children. That he always seems to be there when she really needs someone. Hearing that had changed Erin's mind. Instead, Erin had only told Dajang that Wooyoung has been playing basketball with Shivu. Then, looking Daeyoung in the eyes, she asks him directly, "Do you want to get back together with Dajang?" Daeyoung hesitates, then replies with quiet sincerity, "I can't. Not looking like this. I just want to do the things I never did for her before. The things I should have done." Erin sighs dramatically, joking that it's completely unfair that he got to turn young while she didn't. Daeyoung laughs softly and points out that she looks exactly the same as she did back in school. Still suspicious, Ilkwon flips through his old high school yearbook until he lands on Daeyoung's photo. Sure enough, the face staring back at him looks exactly like the teenage Wooyoung. Ilkwon calls Dajang to meet him at his bar and leads her to a private room in the back. Inside are three men, whom he introduces as university basketball coaches. As soon as they recognize her as the water bomb anchor woman from TV, they start making crude and inappropriate remarks about her body. Disgusted, Dajang quickly stands up and walks out. Ilkwon follows her outside and tries to pressure her. He tells her plainly that if she doesn't pay up, Shivu won't play, and without that exposure, he won't be seen by college scouts. Dajang grows furious, but Ilkwon insists that this is just how the system works. If she refuses to pay, she's the one ending Shivu's basketball future. Later, Dukjin arrives at the bar in his usual role as Wooyoung's father. He's visibly annoyed, especially since Ilkwon had claimed to be dating teacher OK. Outraged by Ilkwon's sleazy behavior, Dukjin refuses to pay a single penny for his son to play basketball, snapping that he doesn't even see him as his child anymore. He storms out and heads home to tell Daeyoung everything. The moment Daeyoung hears what happened, his first thought is for Dajang. That night, he goes to her apartment and nervously paces outside, unsure of what to do. We see him as his older self, as he calls Shivu, who tells him that his mom hasn't come home yet. Knowing exactly where she'd be, Daeyoung heads to the back stairwell of the building, the spot where Dajang always goes when she needs to think. He finds her sitting there, quietly nursing a bear. He joins her. Dajang looks up and sighs, half laughing, "I can't believe this is the third time you've seen me drinking." Daeyoung replies gently, "I quit, remember? After you told me to." She smiles and says, "You really are a sweet kid." Then she adds, almost without thinking, "and kind of annoying." When she realizes what she said, she looks embarrassed, and the expression on her face makes Daeyoung laugh. Daeyoung's tone turns serious as he looks at Dajang. "I know today was rough, but it's okay. You did well." Dajang smiles and calls him a mind reader, teasing that he probably even knows why she's upset. He shakes his head, saying he doesn't, but adds firmly, "Whatever you decide, stand by it. Like my parents did." She meets his gaze, grateful. You're always there when I need someone. Thank you. His hand covers hers briefly, a gentle touch before he pulls away and says respectfully, I'm just sending you some energy. Dajang exhales a breath she didn't realize she was holding. I feel much better. They sit together, the silence between them calm and comforting. The next day, Dajang turns over Dayang's advice in her mind. She dials Ilkwon and arranges to meet him at the school that evening. In the hallway, Ilkwon spots Dayang and, with a cocky smirk, calls out, Go Wuyang, or should I say Hong Dayang? Dayang turns slowly, meeting Ilkwon's gaze, the air thick with unspoken challenges. On her way to meet Ilkwon that night, Dajang calls Aaron, her lawyer friend, to confirm that recording their conversation will hold up as evidence if she reports Ilkwon for illegal college brokerage. She explains her plan and reasons carefully, which unsettles Aaron so much she immediately calls Dayang. At the meeting, Dajang discreetly sets up her phone to record. She hands Ilkwon an envelope of money. He notes it's less than the full amount and tells her to transfer future payments to a bank account. Curious, Dajang asks who controls the account, and he replies that the coaches from Hankook University do. Ilkwon's eyes catch the reflection of Dajang's phone on the glass table. He realizes she's recording them. Suddenly, his phone rings, and he feigns confusion, reaching for her phone. Dajang quickly stops him. Smirking, Ilkwon remarks that they have the same phone and asks darkly if he can see hers. Then, without warning, he grabs her phone. Dajang's expression tightens, worry flashing across her face. Ilkwon tightens his grip on Dajang's phone and asks, his voice low and threatening, if she plans to blackmail him. Calm and resolute, she meets his gaze and replies honestly, no. I'm planning to stop you. Meanwhile, Dayang hails a taxi to the school, repeatedly trying to call Dajang. But Ilkwon still holds her phone. Noticing the incoming call, he leans in close to Dajang and whispers a chilling secret about Dayang, something meant to unsettle her. By the time Dayang finally arrives, Dajang looks up at him, tears streaming down her face, the weight of the moment written clearly in her eyes. Additional scene. One day, while tied up on work calls, Dayang spotted Dajang filming a news segment for her old job. Her boss, the very one who had fired her for being a mom, was publicly berating her in front of the crew and bystanders. Dayang almost stormed over to confront the man, ready to knock some sense into him, but a call pulled him away, and he reluctantly held back. That night, he found Dajang sitting on the stairs behind their building, nursing a bear. She pouted, accusing him of only coming as an excuse to drink. Gently, Dayang told her, it's okay. Whatever it is, it's okay. She grumbled that he didn't even know how her day had gone, but he calmly replied that if he asked, she'd have to relive it all, and that would only make things harder for her. He'd hoped to just relax and enjoy the evening together, but he told her she came first, that she could talk to him anytime she needed. He gently told her she did well today and tucked her close under his arm. She asked him to say it again, feeling comforted by his words. So, he held her tightly and murmured softly, it's okay, you did well today, it's okay, you did well today. Dajang clasped his hand as she narrated, on the days I miss him, he becomes part of my memories. Our warmth blocked the cold night wind. Having someone in my corner comforted me on a difficult day. Time shifts to the present. She sits alone, Then Wuyang quietly joins her as she continues, I know that memories can't last forever, but it feels like mine are still ongoing. It's not just a memory from the past, it feels like the present. It's been continuing all along.